Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Paulus.
And this is Up Your Art,
the podcast which explores how the arts can enrich your life.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. That's the first time I've done that properly.
I am so excited because boys. Boys, I want to talk about boys.
Oh, do you?
Is that acceptable?
That is acceptable.
Okay.
Right.
Because, I want to talk about boys and doing training courses as a male. And running them for people who are of the male persuasion, who identify as male.
Identify as male, yes.
We talked, didn't we, when we met Michael Twaits, who runs the Art of Drag, about boylesque.
Yeah.
Which some people might think we're just saying burlesque with a New York accent when we say that.
That is true. Actually, I never thought of
boylesque. It's not actually a really bad Manhattan accent we're trying to do. It's boys doing burlesque, boylesque, right?
Yeah.
And tell me what happened when you went out the other night and you met some audience members at a show.
Oh, my mind's gone blank. Well, it's actually quite funny. A lot of different places that I go to. So one was particularly about it was Mr. Boylesque. And there were two guys who were loving the show. They were absolutely
audience
brilliant. Audience members, yeah. And I turned around to them and said, "Oh, do you want to do? I teach." And they were like, "Yeah, the girls in the class." And I was like, "Yes." Oh well, no.
Right. Okay. So, and were these? Do you have a hunch that these were queer people, gay people that you were talking to? Okay, gay people. So there's a sense. Yeah. Albeit with a little bit of market research that you've done, albeit quite limited, but that there might be a market for a gay men only burlesque training course. Is that what we're pondering?
Yeah, it's kind of like pondering in the back of my mind since when I first started teaching boylesque, I suppose, I did attempt to do an all-male class, and
that's just harder to sell, isn't it? And to market it's
yeah, exactly. It fell flat,
right.
And
you've just limited the amount of potential people that can join a class. It's just harder to do. You know? My singing courses are harder to sell because I have to have a pianist as well as me to run them. But also my comparing stage presence / public speaking courses, you don't have to be able to sing or want to sing, and there's no pianist to pay either, so I can charge less.
Yeah.
I don't have to have a room that has a piano, and also it's open to much more people. So it's just, it's hard when it gets to limiting things, but...
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose the thing was as well that I had two volunteers, say volunteers, two guys.
Potential attendees?
So Vince Moon, and who is a boylesque performer. He prefers to call himself manlesque.
Manlesque. Well, I think he is. I know Vince, and I would say that's correct. Manlesque.
Yeah, so
marvelous.
He was one of my first male students, along with Harvey H. Hendricks, who has stage management for me since the beginning. And because I didn't know how it was going to go, we did do the class separate, and the last class of the course we mixed, because that's when it's like the dress rehearsal before the show. And it was absolutely amazing. The women were just like, yeah, and they were really encouraging the guys, and the guys were encouraging the women, and it just sort of it was that moment that I realized that actually, because a lot of burlesque classes at that point were for women only.
Right. Oh, were they?
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Some burlesque schools will only teach women.
Like women-only gyms or women-only yoga classes and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And this is, I guess, about a safe space, or a feeling of creating a safe space. But that's our job, isn't it, as a facilitator or teacher?
And the thing is
to create a safe space.
Yeah. I mean, when I've had, there's always that moment, when I've run classes and they've been mixed, that there are women who kind of give a side eye to the guys, and then as the class starts and I'm getting them to dance about with feather boas and just do the same things as the women, they then realise like, oh, they're fine. If they're willing to dance around with a feather boa and just have a bit of a laugh, then, oh, okay.
It's a funny premise, isn't it? It's not that I don't understand it, and it's not that I don't believe that there shouldn't be women-only spaces, for example, or gay-only spaces. Yeah. But I think it's a strange old premise because, if you've got somebody who is not interested in coming to a burlesque class, a woman, let's say, for argument's sake, because there are men taking part, then that's to suggest that all men are potentially, just there to leer at you, and that's their raison d'etre, and then how do you get around, someone who is trans and who may live as a woman but actually have been born as a man, and them taking part in that course? And I'm talking about men and women here, but you could also talk about gay people and straight people and black people. It's such a, I don't want to ghettoize training courses and the experiencing of creativity, all under the guise of creating a safe space, because I have a feeling that might be bullshit.
Yeah, I think. For me, I think the class is better with everyone.
With a diverse group of, I find it with ages. Yeah. Especially on my singing course.
I've got an old man.
You've got an old man. Does your husband know? Is he rich? Keith's just done that money sign with his fingers, like rubbing. Oh, now he's doing one with notes. You are allowed to speak, Just realised he's got a voice.
Oh, but this guy is just so wonderful in class.
Well, tell us what age you're talking.
I'm not sure.
Give us a ballpark.
I never ask the age, but I just give a
do
guess.
They have liver spots on their face? Is there a walking frame?
Not quite that bad, but yeah, it's...
So we're thinking 60s or 70s?
Yeah.
Oh, doing burlesque?
Yes.
Brilliant.
And I love it. It's just like, it's so enjoyable.
And he's doing the feather boa and the taking off of the...
Yeah, bumps and grinds. Brilliant. Actually, absolutely brilliant. And throwing themselves into it. It was so even bought themselves a pair of red sparkly shoes.
Oh.
And I'm like, I
That's so nice. And so the idea that fellas, straight or gay, that doesn't matter, can come and take part in a course and just let go of their inhibitions and have some fun.
Yeah, exactly.
At any age.
Yeah.
It's kind of delightful, right? A lot of people ask me about my Cabaret for Singers course. They assume that there'll be an age, a cap. On the ages that I take. And I've worked with people in their 90s, people in their 80s, people in their 70s. And the only cap really is the limitations they feel that they have. Whether that be physically, although I do my very best to work around people's physical issues. I mean, the amount of students I've got that have got bunions at the moment. Basically, all of my students are 50-year-old women who have bunions and perimenopause. That's basically the case. So you just spend the whole day going, if you can do this next move, please do it. If your bunion is hurting, please sit down.
Well, exactly. That's kind of what you've got to do. It's like, if it hurts, stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Please stop.
Self-care. That's a phrase I say a lot these days. Self-care.
And on that note,
self-care. It's a great introduction to our guest.
Yes.
Really is. How do you describe this marvellous man?
I can't. Yeah, let's.
Okay, ladies, I'll do the comparing.
Okay, go on.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dean Addams. Hello.
Hi.
You all right?
Yeah, good.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
How was your travel here?
Long.
Oh, bless you for coming. For those of you that don't know Dean and that have never seen a picture of him, I think you should know that we are sitting here with a man with a bright blue, I think blue is the colour, bright blue beard and hair and so much ink on his body. I mean, I can't see all of his body.
I think Dean is possibly the most colourful person I know.
Yes, yeah, literally. Yeah. And you've got this beautiful butterfly from your beard down, all the way down your neck, and then obviously I can't see other things. And then there's the peacocks on your arms and stuff like that. When did this all begin, Dean?
Well, I had my first tattoos about 25 years ago, something like that. And then I left them because they hurt. And I thought, I don't know if I want to do any more of them. For a long time, and then
whilst having them done, they hurt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I made that mistake. I had one done on each arm, and they didn't hurt too much. And I was kind of like, "Oh, this is fun. I'll have one done on the center of my chest." And I cried all the way through, and then I was just put me off.
How long did it take?
That one, I only let him do the outline, because he started, and then I was like, "Oh, that's more painful than I expected." And then he was like, "Well, do you want to walk around with a line on you, or are you going to let me finish?" And I was like,
"Oh, so you were really struggling?"
Yeah. So I cried all the way through it, and it was meant to be coloured and everything, and I was like, "Sod that." So then I didn't go back for about 15 years, and with tattoos, they just go all smudgy and horrible, and all the colours disappear and everything. So I went back to get them touched up. And that's when I met this young lad from Latvia who had done a jewellery degree and was very good at tattooing. And I got talking to him as he was redoing my old ones. And he was like telling me how the machines had changed and the inks had changed and the styling had changed and that kind of stuff. And that really got me excited again, because I was never a big fan of traditional tattoos, but I liked the idea of body art.
Right.
And when I first got mine done more than 20 years ago, it wasn't that sophisticated, but he was like showing me stuff, and I was like, oh. So then I got a couple more done with him, and that's when I was like, oh, the colours are fabulous. And so I said to him, oh, I've got these ideas, do you want to work with me? Because he was very well known for black and white work, and hadn't really done colour. And then he was like, okay, but it's not kind of my stuff, so I won't, just don't say I did it kind of thing, because they're funny like that tattoo artist. And I was like, that's fine by me, because they like to do their own work, and I designed them all myself. And then it was really good fun, because we would literally mix the inks together and try out different like strokes and layering and all this kind of stuff. So it was a really interesting experience for me and him. This was over 10 years. And to begin with, I just think he thought I was mad, because I was...
Were you paying him for all of this?
Yeah. But because I was such a perfectionist, and he didn't get it. He was he worked in Hammersmith Tattoo, and people would just come in and go, oh, what tattoo? Just stick it there. And he would just stick anything there. And I was just like, he'd put something on, but like, no, it's 2 millimeters to the left. And he'd be like... You want me to take the whole thing off and do it again? And I'm like, yeah, you have to take the whole thing off and do it again, because it's 2 millimeters to the left. And to begin with, he was like, oh. And then he would be like, oh, it's you again. That's like, oh my God.
Putting the blinds down at 2 p.m. Oh God, we're out.
Yeah. But the thing is, eventually, he can't, and I started, because he didn't do colour, because he did jewellery, and he didn't learn, because I did, my first degree was in art. So I was teaching him about colours and complementary colours and colours that clash, and how you can make colours clash in a good way and this kind of stuff. So it was a real journey for both of us. And then when we actually got to doing this peacock, I mean, all these eyes were different stencils.
People, you're indicating your right arm.
Yeah. So, and it was kind of like that kind of point where he'd got it by then. And he was the one that was putting the stencils on and going, no, I don't think that's in the right place. I'm going to do it again. I'm like, yes, finally. After 8 years, I got through to him. He can finally see my vision. So this green one really is symbolic of my journey with him together. But he moved back to Latvia. He got married and had a kid and moved back to Latvia. So the last 4 times, including the one on my neck that you mentioned, I've had to go to Latvia to get them done. Which was interesting the first time. Riga's a nice capital city of Latvia, but there's not a lot to do there. So by the 3rd time I went back, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't just get this done. So I've got one more to do with him, because he's done them all and I've designed them all. I mean, each tattooist is like a painter, so they have their own style.
Yeah.
And that's why mine look like they were all designed at the same time, but they weren't. It was never my plan to have more than about 5, really, you know, half covered now.
The front half, mostly, I think.
Yeah, the whole of my back is covered.
Oh, so, right, okay. Yeah.
So, but they look like they were designed that way because they're my designs and his artwork. So I had an idea in my head that I want to get finished with him. So I've got one more on the back of my neck to do, and then to finish off my hands, and then I'm done. So going to lap, yeah.
This is the most overt and the most public expression of creativity that a student of mine, which you are or have been, I think has ever had. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Because Dean, you've done courses with both of us.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you to express your own creativity, albeit with a collaborator from Latvia, all over your body, and have people see that all day long, every day?
It's a funny thing, because for a long time the tattoos, because they all have a meaning for me, whether it's serious or not serious, they do all mean something to me. And for a long time, nobody knew I had tattoos, because everything was kind of confined within my t-shirt.
Right.
So unless you were actually naked in bed with me, you wouldn't know I had a lot of the tattoos. And that was fine. And then it kind of, because they grew into this pattern and I had this idea in my head of how I wanted them to look, I kind of knew I was going to have to come outside the t-shirt. And then I thought, people are going to see them and they're going to see something of me, because it's quite personal. And so that's when I kind of came down to my elbows, and I was kind of like, oh, this is not too bad. I can still cover it up with a shirt. I don't actually like wearing things all the way to my wrists.
Right.
So then when I went from my elbows down to my wrists, that was like, the first one was the green peacock that I was talking about, which everyone, I mean, it is very beautiful, even if I say so myself.
It is.
But everyone kind of likes that one. And when I did that one first, I really wasn't expecting the amount of attention it got. And I would literally be stopped in the street, and I would, because it's on my right arm, and I would use my right arm to pay for things. Practically every time I went to pay for something in a shop, someone would comment on it. And I remember once I was in San Francisco, and I was walking down the street, and people were shouting at me across the street, and it's like, we're not used to that. And I'm just saying, oh my God, I'm being attacked. And they're like, yeah, great ink. And I'm just like, don't shout at me.
Is it always positive, the reaction you get?
Yeah. I mean, with that one, it's like, the amount of times I had people coming up to me going, I don't really like tattoos, but I really like that one.
Oh.
And it was like, really? Yeah. And especially older people.
Cabaret.
Yeah.
Especially older people and very, very middle-class people as well, because I live in Kensington and Chelsea. So you would be surprised how many kind of like posh people were like, yeah, I don't like tattoos, but I like that one. I'm like, thank you.
I love this idea that that sort of almost subversive idea that the stuff that you first had done would only have been seen by a lover or a sex partner if they were naked in bed with you, I think you said, and that it somehow became more dangerous or intimate or to expose the other parts, the more everyday parts of the body.
Absolutely.
To their new version.
Absolutely. And that was a bit weird for me, because, and I mean, I still kind of struggle with this, because it's like when people like stop me in the street, or I mean, that time in San Francisco, I actually had to put my jacket on, even though it was a sunny day, because I was literally being stopped every 5 minutes. And I was just like, I just want to do some shopping, leave me alone, you know. And also because people go, oh, where'd you get it done? Where'd you get it done? I'm like, I'm from London. You're never going to get it done by this guy. So, yeah, it was a bit weird. And it's also because it's kind of, it's nice that people say, oh, I like your tattoo. And this always sounds really arrogant, but I don't really care. Because it was never for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was something I had, and it was something in my head. And, you know, because I'm not wearing jumpers and jackets all the time, I have to share it with the world, but it wasn't for the world. And I think people confuse that, because I think often when people get tattooed, they want to be looked at.
Yeah.
And people think because you've got them, you want to be looked at.
Right.
And touched. A lot of people want to touch it. And that's another weird thing as well. And it's kind of like, it's kind of private.
And do they ask, does anyone do it without asking? I've probably done it to you.
People from certain cultures do, because it's a space, and kids do. I don't mind kids doing it because kids are just spontaneous. I'll be on the tube and kids will just touch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but people from, I don't know, Mediterranean countries where they have a different idea of personal space will just touch me. And it's kind of fine. But then when it came to doing my left arm, I was kind of like, I was kind of a bit worried, because I was thinking, God, you know, what if the attention gets even more? Because it was kind of quite a lot for me. Because funnily enough, I'm quite a private person. And then the funny thing was, I got the second one done, and then everyone stopped talking to me. It was like one arm was really unusual and beautiful and a bit of art. Two arms was, no, you're just too weird. You're just too weird. You got too many tattoos. I'm not going to talk to you. And I was like, yes, results. Everyone stopped talking to me.
Do the face immediately.
So
you haven't done your face.
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
But the funny thing is, this is the funny thing. It's like, you know, I have one on my leg and I have these ones on my hands, and I always said I would never get my hands done. But a lot of the tattoos I have have a kind of spiritual meaning. So often I'm given the idea of the tattoo as a vision or an image to have. I don't always understand it at the time. There's a whole other story. Like there's a frog I have on my own, which later someone explained to me what the frog meant, and then it made sense. But I got these, you know, I was given this image for these dragons on my hands, and I was like, I don't want hands. I'm not doing that. And I left it for 3 years, and they just kept coming back. And, you know, I was talking to my best friend about it. And I was like,
the images kept coming back to you.
Yeah.
A mental image.
And the message to have these done on my hand.
On your hands.
Yeah,
message from?
Spirit, from my spirit guides.
Oh, wow.
Because that's the other thing
That's
I
the
do.
other thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
You do lead vision quests? I don't know
not
much.
kind of that kind of...
No.
That sounds like Dungeons and Dragons
I don't
to
know.
me.
It was what somebody said to me. I was like, you help somebody find their spirit animal.
That's
right.
So I'm a shamanic practitioner, and I teach people to connect with their spirit guides in the Native American Indian tradition.
So some people would understand the idea of a spirit animal being almost like something from a Philip Pullman book. Mm-hmm. And is there any link to what you do, or is that completely a different thing and rather offensive?
No. Philip Pullman, was he the guy that wrote...
it's sort of...
his Dark Materials.
The Dark Materials.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's just been on the TV, which is why I mentioned it.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. That... So, I mean, we've heard it because you'll have heard it because it's part of our popular culture now, this idea of having a spirit guide or a power animal, or as the Native Americans call them, totem animals.
Right.
So in the Native American system, they believe when you choose your life's journey before you're born, you're given, I think it's 9 guides that will come with you to help you on that journey. So they're kind of chosen, and then you're born with these 9 guides, and they guide you through your life.
So I'm going to quite early on have to jump in here because I'm confused. You just said when you choose your life's journey before you're born. So I chose my life journey before I was born?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we all did. So sorry, how far do you want to go with this?
You may have to come back for a second chat.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
Well, so one idea is
we've
that
totally deviated.
Is that we exist in soul groups, and that our soul group has stuff to learn to give back to, I don't know, a universe or intelligence. And so each time we're reincarnated, we choose a different life path in order to get the most learning for our group. And the other members in our group will also help us on that journey, which is why you get this idea that you might meet someone in this life that in a previous life was your mother or your father or your wife or your child or something like that, that they're playing a different role in this life, but they're helping you with your learning in this life.
Okay.
So that's...
At the beginning of our podcast, we talked about boys, and we said before we introduced you, we were talking about boys, and I've got a hunch I've met you a couple of times now, and obviously just learned a lot about you now. I've got a hunch that you may not really sign up for the suggestion that you're a boy or a man, and that might be a little simplistic and binary for you. But do tell us.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the Native American spiritual tradition, they have the two-spirit people who are born with their soul is both genders, or they have two souls, one male and one female, that exist in perfect balance. So there's neither one is stronger than the other one. And of course, there's a whole spectrum of that. There are people who are more male and people who are more female. So, I mean, on a spiritual level, I think that might be true for me, that I'm two-spirited, but in my human life, in this life, certainly, and I've talked about this before, I would, my identity, I guess, would be that I'm a transgender woman who's choosing to live as a gay man. So when I was born, when I was very little, I kind of thought one day, I've been born in the wrong body. And as a small child, I thought, that's just a mistake, really. I just thought, somebody's popped me in the wrong body and it will sort itself out in time. And I really did think that. I thought as I grew up, my body would change and become a girl's body.
Without help of surgery or anyone else intervening.
I just thought my thing would drop off and then I would look like my sister. Right. Because I kind of knew that was the body I was supposed to have, but I had this extra thing that I didn't really need as far as I was concerned. And very much identified as a girl, and I used to wear girls' clothes, and it was kind of weird because my sister was quite a tomboy. She's 4 years older than me. And I could never understand why, she didn't like girly things, and I really like girly things. So all the girly things she got given, I took them. I was like, yep, I'll have them. And
did she take your trucks and your action men and stuff?
Well, I mean, I have older brothers, older than my sister, so she wanted all their stuff and gave me all her stuff. So it was like a hand-me-down system.
That's great. That's good.
Hand-me-down system.
And then, but my brothers would try and give me their stuff, and I'm like, no, you're all right. Give them to my sister.
Do you mind sharing with us a ballpark, just for listeners, of what age you are, so that we can understand when you were growing up and this?
I'm 53, so this year I'll be 54. So I was born in 66, so we're in the mid-70s.
And you grew up in the UK?
No. My father was in the military, so I was born in Singapore. Okay. And then I grew up mainly in Germany.
So how did people in Singapore and Germany, neighbours and people on the street, how did they react to you, little you?
I think when I was about 6, so we would have been in the early 70s, 72. And I should say my mother's Dutch. That actually they were kind of like, it's just a phase. And because I was little and obviously quite flamboyant, they just thought it was kind of like a funny thing, though I was quite serious about it. One of the other things that I remember from my childhood, I was a massive fan of the Addams Family. And I used to run home from school to watch Addams Family. And I remember saying to my mother when I was about 6, I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to be like Morticia. But I said I wouldn't marry Gomez because he's really annoying. I said I would marry Lurch because he's like really tall, he's got a really deep voice, he plays the piano, and he doesn't talk much. And if anyone annoys her, he just picks them up and throws them out the door. And I was like, that sounds like the perfect partner to me, age 6.
I love that.
And my mother
do you still think that now?
Yeah, I mean, I still find Gomez annoying. Yeah. So my mother never said, no, you can't, you're a boy. She was just like, yeah, whatever. And I think for a long time they thought it was a phase, and if they just left me alone with it, I would grow out of it. But the older I got, the more determined I got about it. And I remember, and I had very strange ideas. So in about 76, when I was about 10, there was the disco movement. And in Germany, there was Amanda Lear, who was, people say is transgender. And to me, she was. And I was like, okay, by 10, I knew that my body wasn't going to rectify itself. But I thought, oh, there's still hope. I could still have the surgery. And she was fabulous. And I thought I can still be fabulous. So that's my next goal, that when I'm older, I'll have the surgery. So I was a big Amanda Lear fan. But she was always like wearing like thigh-high boots and whips and all this kind of. She was very sexualized.
That explains why you wear a lot of thigh-high boots in class.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Most amazing like shoes and heels and boots in class. I get shoe envy every time Dean comes into class with what boots they have that week.
So
I'm like,
when I work with Dean and training courses, you turn up as you have today, sort of in a t-shirt and they're not tracksuit bottoms, they're much classier than that. But yeah, I don't think we've ever had boots or anything like that. But I have seen you on stage, and is it Debbie that you normally are on stage?
Yeah.
Tell us about your stage personae.
Well, in terms of Debbie Delaware, that comes from there was always that part of me. I was a big fan of Cher and Debbie Harry and Susie from Susie and the Banshees. So I kind of like women that were kind of strong and a bit more like rock chicks, really. So that's where the image of it comes from. In my mind, Debbie is more of a kind of aging rock chick. In terms of appearance, though because I would, when I first started, I had leather trousers on and boots and this kind of stuff. But now I'm kind of wearing dresses. And kind of what I found is that the songs I actually want to sing are more kind of like sad songs rather than rock songs. Yeah. I think when I started out, I thought I would do more rock type songs. But then as I've been doing like cabaret and drag and that kind of stuff, I think more of my stories come out. So the story is much sadder than the idea of what I thought I was going to be as a stage persona, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, in the burlesque that I do with Emily, my other persona, Brittany Del Rey, she is the full-on boots, and Brittany is like Lana's stripper sister from Vegas, you know what I mean? And that's that other alter ego that came from the whole Amanda Lear 70s kind of disco kind of thing.
And what's your take on the whole learning burlesque as someone who presents to strangers, to others in the class, perhaps as male? Do you ever find that like you're intimidating a female in the class, or what's that about?
I don't. Well, I hope not. Because,
I don't think so,
because often, I will go to class in high heels and things like that, because my burlesque persona is also a drag persona, obviously Brittany.
Sure.
I think, what was more problematic for me for a long time was the idea of drag, because I grew up knowing I was transgender. But the thing I should say, because people can't see, is like I'm 6 foot and I'm quite a big bloke.
Yeah. And you've got a beard.
I do now.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, when I was little, I was
not
quite
when you were
petite.
little.
I was quite petite, and I kind of thought, I'll have the surgery in my late teens or 20s. But then I hit puberty and I grew really like 6 foot and a big Adam's apple, big hands and feet. And that's when I was kind of like, that's not the idea of the woman I wanted to be. So I was like, okay, I've got this body. Now I have a choice. And I took a long time deciding whether I would continue to live as a man or whether I would have a transition. And I decided to live as a man. So fast forward many years down the line to doing drag, I think it was my resistance to doing drag was I didn't want people to think it's not me as if I was a woman.
Yeah.
And it's not me trying to be a woman. So funnily enough, one of the things that made it easier for me in terms of drag was having a beard.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm clearly not trying to look like a woman.
No, quite. It's a massive comment, and I do the same, as you know. My drag is a sort of a Sats drag almost, or I call it guerrilla drag. Yeah. And for those people that haven't ever heard that term before, that's not guerrilla as in ape. Actually, it's guerrilla as in warfare. Yeah. You know.
And that was important for me. That was important for me that that I wasn't. That people knew I wasn't impersonating a woman.
You're not choosing to use the term at any point transvesticism here. You're talking about drag. Yeah. And you must have, because I know you're intelligent enough to do so, you must have made a conscious decision to do that at some point. These are Brittany and Debbie are drag personas. Yeah. Okay.
Because I think for me, generally, I have friends who have transitioned. I think that for me, so transvesticism tends to be about people enjoying wearing women's clothes to whatever degree in terms of being turned on by them. There's not that for me.
So you don't enjoy it to an extent of being. It doesn't turn you on.
Not at all, and not at all. And in fact, the whole drag thing I find really tedious. Actually having to put all the makeup and the wigs on and this kind of stuff. Yeah. The funny thing was, the reason I got into drag, is to backtrack a bit as well, is short version is all my life I've been told I couldn't sing, so I didn't sing. And then a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, I had some singing lessons because I had to learn a song for something. And turns out I can sing, apparently. So then I joined a gospel choir. And then I was in the gospel choir, and then solos came up, and I was too nervous to do the solos. I wanted to do them, but got so nervous. So then I thought, in terms of increasing my confidence, maybe I'll go and do a drag course, which I did Michael Twait's The Art Drag course. And I thought maybe by creating a persona, that will give me more confidence, because I'll be this other person on the stage, and she will give me the confidence. But actually, that's not what happened. What happened is I'd be on stage and there'd be hair in my mouth, and I'd be worrying about my eyelashes dropping off, and my corset was really tight. And I was thinking, well, actually, this is getting in the way of my singing.
Yeah. In some ways, it's like the armour is not protecting me; it's hindering me. Emily, you must have seen this with many students, male, female.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to protect themselves, and the difference between persona being a good thing and a hindrance.
Yeah, exactly. But you kind of have to go through it to know what persona you're going to take at the end. Because you just describing that, I was like, because just relating to myself of when I first started out in Burlesque, it was like, I should wear a corset, I should do stocking peels, I should do this. I hate corsets. Corsets are horrible. The people who perform in them and do great, fabulous, good on you, not for me. And I can imagine as a singer that would be just more restricting.
So that's what's happened to me over the last 2 years, because I think it's not even been 2 years. It was only just been over a year I've been doing drag. Is like finding your. So I took the corsets off and I found more comfortable shoes and things like that. The things that were kind of getting in my way. I took some of them back. And I think because there was a whole thing where I was just not going to do it anymore. I kind of thought, this isn't kind of working for me. And that was really interesting, because there was a real turning point for me. It was when I was at Luscious Cabaret, after I'd been invited by Emily to their night. And I'd gone there to that night as Debbie Delaware. And I was thinking, this is the last time I'm going to get on stage. I'm kind of done with this. Okay. It's kind of not working for me. And there was something in that was kind of freeing. I was just like, I was on quite late. I was like, I don't really care. I'm never going to do this again, so it doesn't matter. Just get up there. You've said you'll do it. Get up there and enjoy yourself, and then, see what happens. And I got up and I had the most amazing night. It was such a fabulous night.
It was such a beautiful. It was one of the Luscious Cabarets that you weren't there, obviously.
That's why it was so good.
It was why it was so good.
I think there's something really crucial here. You spoke earlier on about not caring what people think of your tattoos, and now you're speaking about a moment where you decided to stop caring about. Was it about people's reaction? Was the difference?
I think that was slightly more internal. I think I'd got myself into a thing with the whole drag thing, and it's like, oh, there are people better than me, and the people more interesting, and people more like RuPaul's Drag Race, and and it's kind of like I put really high expectations on myself, and then that night I got on stage and I was just like, I'm just going to enjoy myself, and the audience really gave me the energy back, and between me and the audience we had a really great time, and I came off the stage thinking, actually that's what it's about. It's not about how I look, it's not about what dress I'm wearing or what wig I'm wearing or whatever. It's actually about whether you engage the audience, and that feeling when you do engage them. I came off stage and I was like, yeah, I want to do that again. I want to have that connection.
So what is it? I mean, this is a question for you both. What is it that the approach, the attitude that one approaches the stage with, what's the best one? Is it one of just authenticity, just showing up like, this is me, this is my train, do you want to get on? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to, please let me on your train.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. I think certainly I've in the past had got hung up on the idea of wanting that I had to entertain people or I had to affect people, rather than just going up there and saying, well, I'm going to do my thing, and if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
It allows people to step forward into it. I think if you're going towards them saying, listen to this, engage with this, it's a bit much for people. But if you're just there and you're just like, well, I'm here, people go, oh, actually, yeah, I will get on the train, as you put it. So, and it's completely changed. And now when I perform, I enjoy it. Up till that point, I didn't enjoy it because I was trying so hard. I was putting such great expectations on myself and so much pressure on myself. And now I get on stage and I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to sing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if they like it, they like it. And if they don't like it, they don't like it.
It's so easy to say, but, it's taken me... Well, it took me almost 30 years of performing professionally before I got to that stage. And what's your take on it, Em?
I was just about to say, are we nearly...
No, we've got 7 minutes.
Okay, sorry. That's why I was looking at you. I wasn't looking at you to go, oh, yes. But yeah, it does. I think it's different for everybody, that some people will snap straight into that persona, and there's sometimes the performers that maybe you're doing a course with and they suddenly skyrocket into doing burlesque or drag or cabaret singings, but there's some people it takes a few attempts just to kind of find your groove with it, for want of a better word. And
when you perform personally,
and when
where are you at with that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because
which you're desperately trying to avoid.
I go in and out, and lately I think the Darth Vader was my turning point for me.
This isn't a burlesque act that you do, right?
Yeah, well, it's not. I don't remove anything. I put a tutu on, if anything. So.
You keep on the Darth Vader head the whole time.
The whole time for 6.5 minutes. And I've choreographed a really, really long sequence of spins at the end of it. And I do question my sanity.
Sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's the point. It is ridiculous. And I think, it's in the last sort of year or so for me that I've started to realise that I really just love being silly on stage. I started trying to be serious and trying to be sexy and cute and blah, blah. I was actually trying to be somebody else in that, instead of I really enjoy just being silly and just doing something that makes people laugh. So I
think for me what was interesting was when I did the burlesque course with Emily, is that it was a whole other, because I'd got my head around the drag, and it was like, okay, I can sing with a wig and a dress on, and that's fine. And then, because I always like to push myself out of my comfort zone, which is why I do a lot of these things. And then I thought, I'll go and do the burlesque, because that will be difficult.
Yeah.
And I did, and it was and it was difficult, because I was going to take my clothes off, and end up practically naked on stage. And that was a big thing. It was the opposite of like having this persona. I mean, okay, I'm still a persona because it's Britney, but it's me without clothes on by the end of it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And also when I'm singing, like I say, often I'm singing sad songs, whereas Britney's basically, you know, a stripper. So it's like trying to be sexy and take my clothes off and entertain people and make them laugh. And again, it was something I did for myself. And I remember, and I was going on stage thinking, probably sounds terrible, but I don't really care if anyone else likes it. I'm doing this for me. I'm going to get on stage and I'm going to move around. I'm going to take my clothes off so that I can say I did it. And again, I did it. And then everyone really enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, that's really great. I wasn't expecting that, but it's nice they enjoyed it.
I think that's the thing, you see, and that's not your job.
Yeah.
It's not your job to decide whether this is good enough or whether you should have been given this platform. Somebody gave you it.
Yeah.
Somebody gave you that platform. Now, whether they were right or wrong that's up to them and their God, you know, and hopefully the audiences will tell them, the producer or the promoter, you know, what the issue is, but it's not your job. No. And all of that noise is just noise, you know.
Well, and that's, funnily enough, that's one of the things I tell myself, you know, when I get nervous, because I do still get nervous, obviously we all do. But when I get nervous and I'm like, oh, why am I doing this? And should I pull out and all this kind of stuff? I was thinking, actually, it's a great privilege to be given a platform. It's like somebody has said you can get on stage. So just get on stage and be grateful. It's a great thing to do. And if somebody will let you do it, do it.
Yeah.
You know?
That is a brilliant place for us to wrap up.
Exactly. I was just like, perfect timing.
I know.
So, yeah.
I wish everyone could see how beautiful you are.
Well, we'll put photos on Twitter. So, yes, you can follow us on @UpYourArts.
Oh, yeah.
Twitter.
Are you following us on @UpYourArts?
Of course I am.
You totally lying. Where else can people find us, Emily?
On Linktree.
Oh, that's right. So they're all basically, we've just found out about Linktree, Dean, and it's really good. You might be able to use it for your teaching and stuff as well. So basically, you buy, or you don't buy it, it's free. It's link. So Linktree /UpYourArts is ours. And there it will show the Spotify link, the Apple Podcast link, the Twitter handle. There's a link to finding out more about Luscious Cabaret, a link to finding out more about me if you've got no life whatsoever, and it's all in one link. So you know have a look at that.
Find us there. Thank you so much for coming in.
Brill, you're adorable. And just in case you heard some giggling much earlier on, that was Keith, our fabulous fifth Beatle, and yay!
Yes,
he's applauding himself now because he's in charge of the button. So thank you, Keith, and thank you, Emily, for being with us as usual.
Oh yeah, thank you to you.
No, shush! I'm not jet lagged at all. So yeah, thanks very much for joining us, Dean. You've been a wonderful guest.
My pleasure. Thank you both.
And ta-ra.
Oh yeah, I think we did it. We sort of did it as we were doing it, didn't we? Amazing. We normally forget. Bye. Bye.